Postural tachycardia syndrome. Oh, what's tachycardia? Fast heart rate. Your heart rate just starts going up. But the problem with this is sometimes if your heart rate starts rising rapidly, in tachycardia, your heart rate can go from 70 to 150, like that. I mean, it could just zoom. Your respiratory rate can't possibly catch up with that. You're immediately going to feel extremely lightheaded. Why? Because you're pumping blood at a really fast rate, and it's not getting oxygenated. So your oxygen content is falling, but your CO2 levels are rising. CO2 levels rise rapidly, you start to feel lightheaded. Tachycardia, is typically a problem that we see in young people. Okay, it's bizarrely common. It's not due to a neuropathy, but it's due to mostly adolescent behavioral inability to respond to things appropriately. So people have either periods of rapid breathing and their heart rate doesn't match, in which case you're blowing off too much CO2, or rapid heart rate and your breathing doesn't match and you're building up CO2. So typically it's blowing off CO2 that really is going to affect you most. You're going to feel like you're passing out and whatever. Vasovagal syncope. Ugh, sounds terrible whenever you have a syncoptic event. I have to think of how to say that. Fainting. You know, you have an issue with you'd think I'd remember this because I've had more than my share of students get lightheaded and drop in class. Go figure. Talking about hitting an artery and having blood spurt out. I don't know what the deal is, but it's a real good one for dropping students in lecture. Actually, years ago, I used to do demo brain surgeries for all the new neuroscience students at U of M. And they would come in, and I would tell them, okay, here's the deal. We're going to set up over here. Here's the operatory field. Don't contaminate anything. Stay back. And if you start to get tunnel vision, please sit down or leave the room. Every year I would have somebody drop. The best was, so I'm putting a probe down into this brain, and I've got, Joe Big student athlete, Big 10 student athlete, looking over my shoulder, and the next thing I know, I'm over here and I go, no. I said, okay, somebody get him off of me. Just get him down to the floor. There's just something about it. You're all going to have situations like this. A friend of mine, who's now was a vice president of nursing, did a pathology rotation. Okay? You know this story. You know? Let me tell you the story?
Yeah.
Oh. Her pathologist was Jack Kevorkian. You know that people know him anymore? Dr. Death. So he was an advocate of doctor-assisted suicide. And she goes in for her pathology rotation, and here's the autopsy table, and sitting in the middle of the autopsy table is a female breast. It's a woman who had died of breast cancer. And so he comes in and says, okay, well, let's get going. And he looks at it, he reaches in there, pulls out a meat cleaver, goes whack! Just cuts it in two. She is down, out. Next thing you know, he's got smelling salts. She's coming to, and she's going, oh my God, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. He says, don't worry about it. I'm the same way about testicles. And you you gotta have a sense of humor in this medical world, because you know it's just guys are. If you ever have the opportunity to do dissections, and you know human dissections, it's always the women that cut up the penises, because a guy can't take a scalpel to a penis. It is flippin' impossible. Leonardo da Vinci, who did phenomenal anatomical drawings, got the anatomy of the penis wrong. He went with tradition and not the knife. And so he blew it. He just got it wrong. Well, that's a bad term to use for him because he was gay. But anyway, he just got it totally wrong. So, yeah. So passing out vasovagal is when you have such a drop in blood pressure, typically while you're standing, due to exposure to something that's upsetting you. Okay? You know, typically it's blood and guts. It's just the way it goes. And some of us, that doesn't bother at all, and others just drop. So, yeah. So I want you to pay attention to these couple of slides. I'll be putting all of these slides up right after class today, so everything will be there. Let's go back and take a look at those tables, because those. Do I have them here? Where did I put them? Oh no, my tables are missing. Give me a second. Sorry. Let's just go on. So, with hello. Good. We're going to be done early today, like I said, probably about a quarter after. So,
What table are you talking about?
There's the table that shows the parasympathetic versus sympathetic.
If you go to campus, I think you can open it up, because we have a poster for it.
I did. Okay. Which lecture was it? 7?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was in 7.
No, which one was this?
Yeah, I mean, everybody named it.
Because it was from the autonomic nervous system section that we did before the first exam, and you said that they have to go before the exam.
Right. So it should be.
It's like that.
Yeah. I know I gave them to you. There it is. All right, there it is. I just have to remember where they were. So let's go back to that, to your pupil response. The iris stimulates the muscles, constricts the pupils. So, you know, constricting the pupils stimulates dilator muscles, which is going to lead to dilation. You will have a patient someday that has an unequal pupil response. Somewhere I have the cover from a People magazine from years ago with Paul Newman on the cover. I had to save the cover of the magazine for my wife she loved Paul Newman's eyes. He has the most, you look at those eyes, he has the most incredible blue eyes on the planet, regardless of male or female. They are just incredible blue eyes. However, I looked at him immediately and I said, this is my cover. Because somebody had taken a flash picture of him. And one of his eyes dilated and the other one didn't. And I said, oh my God, he must have had a stroke. Because that's a very good indicator that you have a brain problem. Is that one of your eyes dilates and the other doesn't. So I'll have to take a look for that picture. Okay? Bulging the lens for close vision, parasympathetic versus distant sympathetic. Once again, distant vision, you want to collect data. You want to see the big picture of what's going on with the sympathetic event. You don't want to read the book. Okay, let's see. Bears. What kind of bear is this? Oh, yeah, right. This kind of bear that eats you. Ah! No. You see a bear, run away. Or do whatever you're supposed to do. All right? So that also makes sense. Close vision is for dealing with things in a very meticulous detail. You never have to do that during a sympathetic event. Glands, nasal, lacrimal, gastric, all glands respond the same way. They're either dumping stuff into you or they're not. Okay? Stimulates secretion. You can cry, your nose is damp, your gastric juices are flowing, your pancreas is cranking out pancreatic juices. You're ready to eat, enjoy life, and cry about it. Right? I grew up with Italians. That's the way it was. With opera, too, crying. So, sympathetic inhibits all of that. And a lot of this has to do with blood flow. So when you really think about it, in your nose and in your eyes, you're secreting fluids. Where does that fluid come from? Blood. That's it. It's a mucous membrane in your nose. It's a very small set of glands in your eye. But where does the fluid come from? It's got to be extracted from blood. So, with the sympathetic event, you have vasoconstriction. You have less blood flow, therefore less access to fluid. It makes perfectly good sense. Salivary glands. Yeah, they secrete, they don't secrete. Same issue. Sweat glands, no effect. And it stimulates sweat. So basically, under normal circumstances, you don't sweat much. You really don't. You sweat in response to changes in temperature. As your metabolic activities change, that's fine, that's normal. But now, and you know this when you have a presentation, when you have an important meeting, when you're meeting somebody really special, your hands get sweaty. You're starting to sweat. You're finding you're perspiring. It's like, oh my goodness, what's going on? You're having a sympathetic event. It's very simple. Your adrenal gland, once again, yeah, you don't stimulate it. You always have a small amount of adrenal hormones available. It doesn't matter if they're medullary or cortical. There's always a small amount available. And the sympathetic event increases the medullary adrenal production. That's norepinephrine and epinephrine, or noradrenaline and adrenaline. Epinephrine and adrenaline are the same thing. Erector pili, no problem, nothing, and you get goosebumps. Yay, you got goosebumps. Big deal. They don't do anything.